Thank you all for coming out. We're here at the 149th Street subway station where another commuter was just trying to ride the New York City subway and was pushed in front of an oncoming subway car. Got onto the track, fortunately ends up surviving this experience. There have been times where people have been pushed in front of an oncoming subway car and they've been killed. We've seen this uptick in violence where people are just trying to ride the subway to get from point A to point B. And because of the impact on safety, people are choosing not to ride the New York City subway. I hear from one person who might be telling me a story about how when they ride the New York City subway, they'll take off a yarmulke because they're afraid of being attacked. Others telling me about how when they ride the New York City subway, they'll hug a pole or they'll grab a guardrail because they're afraid of being pushed in front of an oncoming subway car. I've seen it during my visits with the Asian American community. I've experienced it with my visits with the Jewish community, with the Sikh community, people being targeted in different ways, in different forms of transportation here in New York. So there's this implementation right now of a congestion pricing plan that Kathy Hochul has been supporting, which I oppose and I believe should be stopped. Now there's a few different impacts of this congestion pricing plan that are filled with incredible irony. We're here in the Bronx today. One of the reasons why a congestion pricing plan was being advocated for was to have less traffic on the roads. Well, for the people of the Bronx, the environmental assessment of the implementation of congestion pricing means more truck traffic right here in the Bronx, not less. For people who live on Staten Island, the impact is more truck traffic, not less. For people who live in Brooklyn and Queens, cars will be traveling through these side streets to get through other routes to get into the city as they tried to avoid this fee. There's incredible irony here that they're advocating for it in one respect to get more people to ride public transportation instead of being on the roads, and yet you'll have more traffic, including right here with truck traffic in the Bronx. Secondly, if you want more people to be using public transportation, the answer isn't to punish people into using public transportation more. It's to improve the ridership experience. If you have more people who want to ride the subway, that will be more money. More riders mean more money. Also, you have a huge increase right now with fare jumping. I saw one estimate that said over 12%. I saw another estimate that back in 2018 it was 3%. Consider the size of that over the course of the last few years. The people who are riding the subway and they're not even paying their fare. So one respect with regards to congestion pricing, they have a price tag that they put on it that they say it'll bring in X amount of money for the MTA. Well, here's one of the problems with that, is that they're not factoring in all of the exemptions that you know are coming down the pike. As far as which exemptions get approved, that's currently being debated. But the amount of money that the MTA says it will get from congestion pricing is just not accurate. The amount of money that the MTA would get if you're actually making people pay for the service would result in more money for the MTA. Now, if there are people who need to utilize the MTA who just cannot afford it, that's a different conversation, but they can get a card that allows them to be able to access the service. They don't have to jump a turnstile or go through an open door. We've seen the videos. We need people to be paying to actively utilize the service. But we also need to improve the experience. Nobody should be down here unless you're actively utilizing it to get from point A to point B. That is the service that's being provided here at the subway station. There are people who go down there and they stay down there but aren't actively utilizing it. There should be a zero tolerance for that. We need to make sure that there is support for law enforcement to be able to keep this space safe. We need to improve lighting. Yes, improving cameras are part of it, but you also have to do a lot more than that. There have been some laws that have been passed up in Albany that have resulted in added violence inside the New York City subway system. A woman was attacked at the Howard Beach subway station by a man who had once murdered his own grandparent. He had violated his parole this past August. But because of the Less is More Act signed by Governor Hochul, it's been reported that that was the reason that when he had violated parole this past August, he was not able to stay detained. The woman who got attacked, an innocent rider, is now battling for her vision, which may not be recovered. The Less is More Act is an example of one of many different laws that have been enacted up in Albany that have made our streets and our subways less safe, not more safe. So there's a lot to do. But this highlights, once again, another New York rider being pushed onto the subway tracks. When you see a story of a 15-year-old who gets shot in recent days, when you read about somebody who was fatally stabbed in Morris Heights, right outside another subway station, a fourth knife attack in 10 hours a week ago Thursday, there's clearly an issue that everybody in government at every level needs to be focused on, and that is to make this experience safer. The answer with regards to congestion on the streets is not a punitive approach to punish people on the streets. To get more people riding the subway, we need to improve the experience. I've announced that the first day that I'm in office, I'll be declaring a crime emergency here in the state of New York. I'll be suspending a number of laws, and I will be encouraging the state legislature to work with me, regardless of whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. Regardless of what county you're from, whether you're liberal, moderate, or conservative, it doesn't matter. We all have to work together in order to have a New York that people can feel safe on our streets and our subways. People are relying on elected officials in Albany to work together to move this forward. To save New York, we need a safe New York. And there isn't enough leadership right now coming from the governor of the state of New York and this state legislature. You can't ignore this issue any longer. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes. That's just one of the ways. The bigger way is improving the experience, making it safe. I come across people all the time who tell me that they aren't riding the subway anymore. I come across people who tell me that when they do ride the subway, they're hugging a pole or grabbing a guardrail. I come across people who tell me that the hours that they ride the subway have been impacted. They'll only ride the subways during particular hours that are shorter than the period that they used to ride the subway. There are people who ride the subway because they have to ride the subway. They don't feel safe on it, but they have no other choice. So even for them, it's important, even if they're paying their fare, to improve the ridership experience. There's more to do as well with the MTA on the expenditure side. There have been answers for a long time that have gone ignored from one MTA chair to the next. But two of the biggest revenue generators for the MTA would be to get more people riding the MTA and to make sure that the people who are riding the MTA are paying to ride the MTA. Yes, sir.
Both of these groups have used the same consultant and the spokesperson and co-chair of the same
Absolutely not. Yes. There currently aren't any plans, and really, it shouldn't have been news. I mean, he supported me before this weekend. We've been getting great support from all over. I mean, we're getting support from people who are Republicans, who are Democrats, who are independents. This is great how many people want to help us win this race and to save this state. We've gotten support from Democrat sitting elected officials, Bob Holden, for example, in Queens, from former Democratic elected officials, including from right here in the Bronx, Ruben Diaz, from right here in the Bronx, Steve Kaufman. One is a former state senator, the other one is a former state assemblyman, former state assemblyman Dov Hikind. So the support is coming in right now from all over. I welcome it. It's fantastic. Listen, I welcome everybody's support to this campaign. There are two options on the ballot, Lee Zeldin and Kathy Hochul. And it's important for us to be having debates. I just came here from the Pix 11 studios, and I did a 30-minute interview with Pix 11. My understanding is that Kathy Hochul did a 30-minute interview with Pix 11 as well, and they're going to air it on Friday. What had originally started was a debate request. We should have been standing there next to each other. And instead, because she didn't have time to stand there next to me, she insisted that she did have time to stand there by herself. We got a request from CBS 2 to do a debate. I agreed to the debate. Kathy Hochul doesn't have time to do the debate. She's trying to get away with just a single debate for 1 hour at the end of this month over the start of absentee voting. I would accept debates from all of you. I'd be happy to do debates with each of you. And by the way, we really should do it across the entire state. This race is about Lee Zeldin running against Kathy Hochul. When I first started running, people would ask me, are you a John Boehner Republican or a Tea Party Republican? And I would get asked, are you a Ted Cruz Republican or a Pete King Republican? At the start of this campaign, I was asked, are you a Charlie Baker Republican or a Ron DeSantis Republican? I'm my own man, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and I'll get to you in a minute. I'm happy to answer any of your questions on any topics. But this race is about Lee Zeldin against Kathy Hochul deciding the future of New York State. It's not about the former president. I have not. I believe that that's not the only option. The people are pitting this, that there's only two options here. No debates or one debate. And the answer is that the better option, and the one that New York voters want, is for there to be multiple debates across the state.
Is one debate not better than no debates?
Again, and you're the one who asked me that question last week?
Well, not that exactly.
Right. So, I don't know why that would be acceptable to you. Why that would be acceptable to anybody. The idea that Kathy Hochul says that the choice is 0 debates or 1 debate. The answer is that we should have multiple debates across the state. This should not be reduced, and it isn't reduced, to a choice of just no debates or 1 debate. It's because Kathy Hochul is a coward. Let's be honest. It's because she's scared to debate. She's not proud of her record. She's not proud of her positions. She'd rather hide behind campaign ads than be able to stand there next to me and actually debate these issues. I would love to debate her on congestion pricing. I'd love to talk to her about the way to tackle crime on our subways and on our streets. People are being fatally stabbed. They're being murdered. From cashless bail to less is more to the HALT Act to raise the age. Do we have district attorneys refusing to enforce the law? We have people leaving the state more than any other state in the entire country. She's sitting in a seat as governor of the state of New York, and she's afraid to stand there next to me and stick up for her record and her positions. That's on her. The idea that this is a choice between no debate and 1 debate, that's because Kathy Hochul is a coward. listen, it's going to force the state legislature to the table. We'll declare a crime emergency. We will suspend a number of laws. As far as the makeup of the state legislature goes, we'll find out on November 8th. But one of the biggest untold stories right now of what's going on across this state is looking at how many competitive state Senate races there are. And if it is a very good election night, I'm not even convinced that the Democrats have the majority in the state Senate. Now, that is a difficult road to hoe. But I know each of these individual races, the candidates, the districts, and when you look at the Tier 1 Senate Republican races and you look at the Tier 2 Senate Republican races, a very good night. It is not set, it is not determined, it's not decided that the state Senate majority is absolutely staying the way it is. And on top of it, by the way, I would say our election is in many respects, a mandate because the will of the people say that they want a change made to cashless bail. And this isn't a Republican versus Democratic issue. The mayor of the city of New York is calling for a special session in Albany to give judges discretion to weigh dangerousness. The mayor of the city of New York is calling for a special session up in Albany to amend raise the age. And the mayor's right. So if you're an elected official, even if there's a Democratic majority, which is absolutely going to be much closer if there is a Democratic majority in the state Senate, you have to respect the will of the people, not only of your own individual districts, but also the people of the state, because you're running a chamber that's supposed to represent the entire state. I believe that 213 state legislators all should have a seat at the table. As governor, whether you agree with me the most or you disagree with me the most, you all should have a seat at the table for budget, for legislation, for everything. But instead, what we have are three persons in a room. So if I'm the Speaker of the Assembly, if I'm Carl Hastie in January, I would have a little bit more respect and understanding for what our election means as far as what people want on cashless bail. And if you don't want to ask me, go ask the three kids up in the Buffalo area who are going to be raised without a mother. Because 2 Wednesdays ago, their mother was murdered in front of their three kids wearing a bulletproof vest by a man who was released the day prior because the judge didn't have discretion to weigh dangerousness. If Kathy Hochul up in Albany had the courage to do the right thing, the smarts to do the right thing, and give judges discretion to weigh dangerousness, the three kids of Kiera Hudson would not be getting raised without a mother. She was wearing a bulletproof vest and had told people, listen, if you release him today, he is going to murder me. 2 Wednesdays ago, she was murdered.
Mr. Zeldin, your press release for this event.
Are you a member of the media?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Actually from Pix 11.
Great. Fantastic. Welcome.
For the last 2 hours, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, your press release for this event said it was happening at the 149th Street station. There are 3 149th Street stations in the Bronx. Now, one of our political analysts said we're really campaigning for commuters and not necessarily for people who live in the Bronx, in the five boroughs, in the city. Talk about how the perception that you get, especially just with this location to start, jives with that criticism.
Well, first off, the interesting thing about your question is we said that we were doing it at the site where somebody was just pushed in front of it, just pushed onto the tracks. There was no doubt exactly where this was going to be. So I don't know, like for the next part of your question, if we want to play a game of making believe like we don't know exactly where we're supposed to stand today. But going one step further, who are we talking to? Anybody who has to travel down these steps to go to this subway, who are upset that someone got pushed in front of it onto the tracks. If somebody's upset when they see a story of a 15-year-old who gets shot, if they're upset when they see 4 knife attacks in 10 hours 2 Thursdays ago, we're talking to everybody who cares about safety on this subway. We're talking to any New Yorker who feels like more needs to get done to improve the quality of the ridership experience. We could pick up from here and go to some other subway station. Maybe there wasn't somebody who just a couple days ago got pushed onto the tracks. But I'm telling you, it's something that I get as feedback all across the entire area. I get it whether you're in the middle of Manhattan. I hear it when I'm in the Bronx and Queens. People telling me about their own personal behavior, their routine, their decisions have been impacted by what they believe is eroded safety on the subway. Now, Errol Lewis at Spectrum News can post a clip that shows, 12 seconds of people at a subway station where nothing bad happened. That's fantastic. That's great. But what you have to understand is that there are people who are making a personal decision not to ride the subway because of what they see with their own eyes, with the news stories that are out, with the videos they see, the pictures that they see. And by the way, we're just scratching the surface. We didn't talk Green Goblin Gang yet. We didn't talk about any of the other attacks that we've seen on this subway. So if we went downstairs right now and we stood on the subway and we took video for 5 minutes or 20 minutes and nothing bad happened, that's fantastic. But what we shouldn't do is say that because for 5 minutes there was no violence and it was a safe scene and everyone seemed okay, that there isn't something for us to talk and work together on, because it absolutely is affecting ridership, and I hear it all the time.
Can you
Yes.
talk about the narrowing of the polls in your favor? The real clear colleagues average is now at 5%. You're well into single digits. Can you talk about that?
All across this entire state, whether I'm in a Republican county or a blue-leaning county, people are talking about their breaking point in New York. To get to the heart of what this race is about, not according to me or according to Kathy Hochul, but what this race is about when you go out and you talk to New Yorkers, there are a lot of New Yorkers who are thinking about their future in this state, or a family member who's thinking about their future in this state. And it's related to their breaking point. And it's to the heart of understanding, why does New York lead the entire nation in population loss? Our campaign is focused on rising crime and rising costs. That's not it. There's other stuff that we're focused on, but those are the top two issues. Why? Because New Yorkers tell me that these are the top two issues to them. Kathy Hochul doesn't want to stand next to me on a debate stage on Pix 11 or CBS 2 because she doesn't want to have that debate over our competing visions on how to make life in New York more affordable, or how to make the experience on our streets and our subways safer. She doesn't want to debate our positions on it. And instead, she puts a new ad out today where she wants to obsess over the former president. And I think that shows you just how embarrassed she is about her own record, about how ashamed she is of her own failures, of all the other topics that we have to talk about. Because if I was Kathy Hochul, if I was sitting in that governor's seat, I should be bragging about all of the reasons why I am qualified to continue serving as governor. Just think about this. We are 22 days out from the election. Kathy Hochul has a fortune. Has she raised tens of millions of dollars? Well, she was able to raise that money by selling out access to her office. How is she spending that money? She's spending that money not by talking about herself at all. Her new ad today doesn't talk about what she's doing to make the streets of New York safer. She's not talking about what she is doing to make life in New York more affordable, what she's doing to reverse this out-migration from our state. Instead, she's obsessing over the former president. I think that says more about Kathy Hochul than it does about anything else. I have always campaigned like I'm behind. Now, one of the advantages of a poll, whether it says you're down 2 or down 5 or down 7, is you're actually behind. If a poll came out and said we're up 3, I'd still campaign like I'm behind. The difference is I'm out campaigning to earn the trust of voters. I'm campaigning to earn election as the governor of New York. Kathy Hochul is out trying to crawl across the finish line. She's trying to survive this election. I'm working as hard as I possibly can to do my part to save the state. Kathy Hochul's barely working to try to save Kathy Hochul. So if you're trying to understand why the polls have closed, it's because you know where to find me. You knew before I sent my media advisory out that you would find me here on Monday, because this is how we believe we need to work hard to earn the support of voters, is to show up and to keep showing up. And we're going to keep doing it. So what do we have to do? Work as hard as we possibly can, all day, every day, taking absolutely nothing for granted, to meet as many people as possible, to earn their trust and support, to earn their vote, and to work hard to keep earning their support. We are going to be, we were outraised, we will be outspent. But we are right on the issues, especially on the issues that matter most to New Yorkers, and they're telling us it's related to the economy and crime.